So we're here to try to make the best plays possible. Sometimes we have good information to make the best plays, and sometimes it's things that we wish we knew more about before we made those plays. But in either case, being able to read all of this random stuff that appears on the screen will help us make a more informed decision about what our opponent can do, our stance in the game, and maybe some of the cards we should be getting. So this is going to be a video where I'm going to explain all the little icons and all the little different glowy thingies for people that may be new or maybe more advanced people that know how to play the game, but maybe not necessarily how to read the app. So I'm going to move my face down here to get it out of the way, make it a little bit smaller so you can see everything that's going on. And okay. So we're kind of midway through a game against the computer opponent. So at least going from the top bar, and I have my mouse connected so I can kind of point to specifically what I want to highlight. We're going to look at some icons and exactly what they mean. So that is our opponent, which honestly doesn't really matter that much. It's Militia, it's the Dustiness, it's the worst card. But notice that he looks even more plain than usual. But if you look at my character has this kind of glow about him. That's not just because this is Militia and this is like, a good card. It's because if you have that glow around your character, around your avatar, that means that you are going second. So if you've been playing the game for a while and say you have like a 7-day timer or something like that, opponent takes 2 days to make a play, you come back and the honor's low. It's like honor, like it's 2 or 3 honor that's left in the game. And you have like 3 heavies. You can be like, okay, let me go ahead and end the game. Cultist in the game. But if you look at that glow first and be like, wait a minute, this hand wasn't very good. My next hand is probably loaded. I can probably get a lot of honor, maybe 10 or 15. Like maybe that can claw me back into the game. Because you know that you're going second, it is your initiative to end the game. So maybe instead of hitting cultists 3 times to put the honor count at 0, maybe you just play 2 of those heavies. Cultist hit, leave it at 1 honor. So that way you're guaranteed to have another turn because it will end on you regardless. So that's one of the ways that the choice of going first or second, especially at the end game, can have a very big impact on the play you make at the end of the game and determining if you want to end the game now while you feel like you're at an advantage or delay ending the game when you feel your opponent is at an advantage and that you may have a way to bounce back on the following turn. So kind of moving across the top, that's the character. Well, that's the person that we're playing. The 3 that's in the star is how much honor that they have gained so far from the honor pool. The 1 is how many constructs they have in play. If you click the 1, it will show you exactly the cards that are in play. So normally the text is small. You can double click it and you can make that bigger. And you can always tap the bar to make that go down and go back up. The 5 is how many cards they're holding currently. The 4 is how many cards are left in their deck. And 6 is how many cards are in their discard pile. Now, if we click the 4, it's not going to show us anything. It's just the same as pulling down the top bar. But if we hit the 6, it will show us the cards that are in the discard pile. So maybe they have a particular card that you were afraid that if they get it in combination with something else that they could buy like a really good card on the field or attack a really big monster. You can always kind of refer to that first to make sure that they haven't already played it already. Because, maybe you're preparing for the worst when the worst can't even happen. So that's a little, another way that you can kind of get the most amount of information. It's easier to do this in the actual like physical game because, the discard pile is right in front of you. You can always kind of fan through it to see what's been played. But, sometimes maybe in the app, maybe you have a few minutes or a few seconds to try to make a play really quickly, like before your boss or something comes back over when you're at work. But, it's always better to click to try to see exactly what's going on, especially if you haven't been paying attention to the game more frequently. Like I said, if it's a game with like a longer timer on it. The log is probably the most important thing to look at. So if we look at the log, you see it says round 5 at the top. Now the game itself is also on round 5. Our opponent went first, so the new round is always going to start on them. So they had the first round 1, round 2, etc., etc. So they've already made their round 5 play, and it's my turn now to make my round 5 play. So if we click on it, we can see exactly what happened last turn. So right now, it looks like our opponent did like a bunch of stuff, but did they really? Let's take a look at it. So if a card is in white, and typically from left to right is the order in which things happened. So our opponent, if the card is in white, that's a card that came from the hand. So our opponent played Prodigal, kills a monster that's 3 or less. The monster that's in red, that means that monster was defeated from the center row. So they actually killed it, they got the honor value, they got the effect from it. Its effect, because it's a trophy monster, it comes on their side of the field. Whenever you acquire a new card, that card is in green. Whenever you defeat a monster, that card is in red. And whenever you play a card from your hand, that card is in white. So we can see everything that happened on their turn. Prodigal killed Horde and Whelp. Horde and Whelp came into play. Then they play an apprentice, a militia, and 2 more apprentices. They use the Hoarding Whelp effect. So the militia plus Horde and Whelp is 2 attack. They use the 3 apprentices to buy the Mystic. You see Mystics in green, so that's something that was acquired. So that was added to the deck. And the militia plus the Horde and Whelp effect together killed Cultists. And we can confirm that that was a card that was purchased because of what is in the discard pile. So they played Prodigal, 3 apprentices, and a militia. So that was their 5-card hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they purchased Mystic. So looking in the discard pile, it says 6. It's exactly those 6 cards. So if we go back to log, you can always go forward and back, but when it comes to the rounds that they will show, it's only going to show the last 4 rounds, which for the most part is, unless it's in the very later stages of the game, it should highlight almost their entire deck. Almost. So we can go back around and see on round 4 they bought Beat Staff, and we can skip it a little bit. We can go to round 3, and we can see that Elemental Adept, because it's in white, was a card that was played from the hand. A card in purple, it's a newer one. Card in purple means that it was banished. So when Elemental Adept's effect went off to draw a card, the second effect to banish a card in the center row, that's a card that they decide to get rid of. That can be some information within itself. Now, against the computer, it's not really going to tell you that much because the computer doesn't make necessarily the best plays. But if someone played Elemental Adept and let's say they banished a monster like Mafite. Mafite says that you can, when you destroy it, you can banish a card from the center row. That could be a bit of a strange thing to kill, but the reason that they got rid of it could be that you're on the attack. They don't want you to hit Mafite to get rid of a card that they actually want to buy in the center row. Because otherwise, if you're on the attack and, maybe there's like a 5 attack or a 6 attack monster, it's weird that they would leave that there and opt to destroy the Mafite instead. It could be for that reason. They may want to try to better their own strategy instead of, hitting a higher cost monster on the field because there's another higher cost monster you can hit anyway. So little things like that can kind of give you a better view of maybe what future turns are going to be, or maybe exactly the strategy your opponent's trying to go for, and maybe a way that you can go ahead and kind of set up a countermeasure for it. So looking at the other stuff that was done on round three, they purchased 2 copies of Void Militia. So if I was just coming back into this game, I could realize that, okay, Prodigal could hit anything that's 3 or less. They got 2 Void Militias, which are basically heavies for things that's in the center row. They have the ability to banish a card that's in the center row. And see, the earliest that'll let me go back is round 2. So round 2 is basically when they bought Elemental Adept. So the cards that I'm not 100% sure about are going to be the 9 that are left. So we can look at the discard pile and know that, all right, so if I fear something that's attack, they have 2 Void Militias that can possibly, add up to a decent amount of attack. I mean, that could be 4 attack towards the center row that can kill Crackling Jackal, which, doesn't really matter that much, but it kind of gives you some insight on what could be. Now, let's start moving down a little bit. 152 is how many cards left in the deck. That very, very rarely will ever make a difference. Unless it was like a 4-player game and you're playing one set, you're not going to run out of cards. The Void, however, the Void is interesting because there's cards that interact with the Void and you like to know exactly what's in the Void. Sometimes before you even play the card. I think Sidranus that's in one of the first 2 sets. I think when you play it, it immediately goes into the discard pile to try to kill a monster. So in that case, you want to play all your attack first and then play Sidranus. And then it'll open up the Void. It'll highlight all the monsters that you can kill from the Void and put them back to the bottom of the deck. So Void's somewhat important. We'll move to our side before we finish the video. So I have 10 cards that are remaining in the deck. Now, whenever you click, like I say, you click your opponents, nothing happens. It's not going to tell you what's in their deck. Best thing you have to go by is the cards that they've already played that are in the discard pile. And the last 4 rounds in which you can kind of see the cards that were purchased and still have a pretty good idea of like what's in their hand. Because just say in his case, I know that the Beast Staff has not been played. Neither have the Void Militia been played. So the chance that my opponent kills a Cackling Jackal is actually relatively high. So maybe if I wasn't on an attack strategy and I was on a buy strategy, I know that I necessarily don't have to switch to attack to get the board to open up for me to buy more things, when my opponent can basically do that himself, because on the following turn, he's probably going to have enough attack to at least clear another spot in the center row, and maybe I can get my strategy going. So just a way to look at it. If we hit our deck is going to show absolutely everything. It's not just going to show what's in the deck. It's going to show the deck, the hand, and the discard pile all together. So we don't have a discard pile, 0. So we should be looking at 15 cards, kind of. I say kind of because Cackling Jackal, a trophy monster, even though it's not in the deck, it's still an option. The same thing as if I had a construct. The constructs will still show up here, even if it's in play, because it would show an option of what the deck can produce. So in total, we should have 16 cards. So we got the 10 starters, got 2 mystics, Trophy Hunter, makes 13. Canopy Jar is 14. Stone Circle Elder is 15. And the Cackling Jackal is 16. So technically it's 16, but if we look at the cards we have 5 in play. We have 10 in the deck. So those are our 15 cards, and those are the cards that's accounted for.